sort of thing. My name is Spencer Berry. I'm here in San Francisco for the Faye Webster Invitational, hanging out in the Mission with Doc. The Faye Webster Invitational was in Berkeley 2 days ago. It was a group, I think probably like a dozen of Faye's favorite world famous yo-yoers doing like a demonstration with some musical performance in between. I was sort of raised by the Spin Doctors Yo-Yo Club out in Alameda and Berkeley and San Francisco. Lived in San Francisco for, 5 or 6 years for school and work. And it was really nice to kind of reconnect with old faces. Unfortunately, I haven't been here in, probably 7 or 8 years. And it was just really nice to have a reason to come back, a non-competitive event to, see old friends and just kind of like reconnect with San Francisco, which I really miss. So I think when I first started yo-yoing and was making a lot of tricks, I was very young, and I was actually commuting from Davis, where I was born, to come out here to the Spin Doctors Yo-Yo Club. I think with like Gary and Paul and Gabe, Sector Y, and the Spin Doctors, they had a huge influence on like the style and like the approach to trick building. So I think a lot of the Bay Area style yo-yoing just became ingrained with me because those were the people that I looked up to, that I wanted to kind of emulate. Like Rancid Milk, one of my tricks was based on Kamikaze, which was a Paul Escolar trick. There's an odd resurgence and interest in Rancid Milk. I hear a lot of kids calling it a milk check, which is super flattering. They sort of like see Rancid Milk as like a gauge of like style or approach, like because Rancid Milk has a lot of different elements and like arm components and hops. I think people like use Rancid Milk as sort of like a baseline, or like a like got up today and like did a little milk check just to like get started, get kind of like warmed up. And I was really flattered about that. And to see Rancid Milk performed in like a demonstration of like the Faye Invitational, it's kind of, I don't know, it's really flattering and kind of funny.
Nice. So some players are very particular about what is and what isn't their trick, right? If they have like a signature trick, they have like a certain part that they get irked when they see someone do it wrong.
I think as I've gotten older, I've let go of any sort of creative ownership, and at this point I'm just flattered to see someone trying my trick, and however they want to do it, I'm open to, and I'm excited about it. I'm just sort of like, I'm just happy that it survived the test of time.
Are there any parts of Rancid Milk that people struggle with? Like, do you have like a bit of advice on a certain element of it or anything?
Yes. The part of Rancid Milk that everyone struggles with is, so you need this twist here, and you go off like that. And the people have trouble with that part because there's a lot going on at once. So from the double, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's like all those elements happening at once.
Yeah.
That catch people up. And a lot of times, like getting it smooth, if you break it down into too many steps, it's hard to make smooth. So a lot of it is just like getting it all happening and doing it like when it's all over here.
So Rancid Milk, you said, is kind of like one of your favorite tricks and it's kind of caught on. Do you have like a favorite move?
I named the laceration, but I don't feel any sort of ownership over it at all at this point. When I was originally creating the laceration, it was a trapeze to a loop catch. And I think over time, the laceration has become a term, like an umbrella term for any kind of like whippy string move. Mm-hmm. But to me, it was always like a trapeze to a trapeze. The yo-yo barely moves. The string whips up and there's a loop that you actually stick your finger into. So I think over time, when laceration was like required at nationals or whatever, it was like any kind of whippy string move. So to me, like, originally I was frustrated because I was like, oh, they're not doing a laceration right. But you can do the tricks however you want. I feel more like now, like, stoked that name for some reason has propagated into something beyond what I intended it to be. Yeah.
So my favorite Spencer move or video even, has always been breath. That to me always looked like a 1 in 100 kind of take too, right? Like, is breath a trick that you could like do now, or is breath a trick that like you spend a night working on it, you'll get it?
In 2013, I was shooting 365 yo-yo tricks with Steve Brown, and every week I would, queue up a batch of tricks and try to perform them. And every week I would attempt breath. And I don't think I hit breath until October. So like breath has always been a trick that like was very strict conceptually, but to like perform it in a way that I felt was like smooth and cohesive enough was never like something I could do in a performance setting or under pressure. When I originally shot breath, I shot it, Gabe wanted me to give him the footage that day or the next day because he was gonna put it in a video, and I stayed up till 1 a.m. I was standing in the middle of the street with a shop light at my feet, and it took me probably 90 minutes. I remember having to rewind the tape at least once to start over. It was just pure breath takes. So it's never been like a hit it on command type of trick. When I first started, I think the biggest inspiration for me was kicking tricks. So, and then from there, like the spin doctors, definitely like Paul Escolar and Gabe Citadel. You, Doc Pop, was definitely an influence for me. So when I was first yo-yoing with like, Paul and Gary and the kind of the renegade movement, there was definitely a transition from responsive to unresponsive happening with like yo-yo jams, bigger bearings, pads wearing out. A lot of people were playing less responsive as binds were kind of invented. I think for me, I had trouble gravitating towards bind response yo-yos. I think for one reason, because the bearings were really loud and I just don't like loud bearings. And two, like it always just felt sloppy to like have to do an extra trick to tie up my trick that I already did. And I think also with like the video culture and Gabe, there was always like a cleanliness that I wanted to preserve. And my relationship with Gabe, like I knew that like my tricks personally were too hard to land. It would take me like half an hour to like hit my trick one time. And I always could trust Gabe to like get my best take and like respect that. And I think a lot of the videos at the time that were unresponsive, you saw a lot of missed binds, you saw a lot of like slop at the end, you saw like a long throw and like setup. And my personal video style gravitated towards like tighter and tighter tricks, less throws, less catches. And so I always like played a little bit more responsive for that. And I think as time ticked on, like I continued to be uncomfortable with binds because I didn't practice them. And I really enjoyed the flyaway at the end of a trick. I really enjoyed the snappiness of responsiveness. And also it just like forces you to play smoothly, forces you to keep things taut. And so I guess I just kind of stuck with that. I do consider myself an active thrower. For a while, I guess I call myself like a bus stop yo-yoer. Someone who kind of like a fidget spinner. Like I throw my yo-yo to fidget to kind of like stim at the grocery store, like keep myself separate from the crowd, sort of like physically.
Yeah.
I am a regular thrower. I haven't really like made up tricks. I wouldn't say I've been like pushing myself to learn new stuff for a while, but I'd like to do more of that. I still have some copper Theodores for sale. Theodore originally came out, I think, in 2018, so it's been a while, same model, but I copper plated some and I'm like slow selling them as people have interest. I've always loved copper plated yo-yos. I got the Dry Wet, I think it was called, the copper wet by Anti-Yo. I was always a big Anti-Yo fan, and the copper yo-yos, they do make your hands stink, but I really like the way that they kind of evolve with time. I love that like when I played with the Dry Wet really hard for a couple weeks, like the edges would get all nice and rosy and kind of shiny, and then if I didn't play with it, it would get kind of like tarnished and kind of darker and just like ever shifting and reflecting like the life of the yo-yo. I've always been into yo-yos that you can play with, that you can walk the dog, you can ding them, you can scratch them up, and I think copper kind of naturally extends that into you can see the life of the yo-yo like in the patina. If you're interested in copper Theodores, they're still posted on spencerberry.com. It's pretty bare bones site right now, but if you have questions, you can find me online. All my socials and email and stuff are there.